Chair recognizes that the Lenore County Board of Education has established a quorum and calls for the August 9th, 2021 regular board meeting to order. Just so everyone would know, Mr. Smith is joining us tonight. Board member Merwin Smith is joining us tonight remotely because he has been quarantined. Chair recognizes Mr. Nick Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let us pray. May the words spoken in this room tonight be beneficial to the students, parents, staff, and administrators in our school system. And may we be led by the guiding principle to always base our decisions on the best interests of our young people. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Harvey. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Mr. Brett Williams to present the agenda for tonight's meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, it is my honor tonight to present to you for your consideration and hopefully your approval tonight's agenda.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Williams. Is there a recommendation or motion pertaining to the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda.
There, got a motion by Mr. Davis. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Woods. Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Davis and a second by Mr. Woods to approve the board agenda as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, I do have a couple of comments tonight I would like to make. First of all, I would like to recognize a couple of people that are with us. As I mentioned, Mr. Smith is remotely because he has been quarantined. I believe Ms. Pam Brown, Lenore County Health Director, is with us tonight. Welcome. And I believe Mr. Preston Harrison, County Commissioner, is with us tonight. Thank you. Welcome for being with us. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Okay, we, the board, would like to continue to thank all of the staff and employees, regardless of job description, of the Lenore County Public School System for the outstanding commitment, dedication, and hard work that has gone into making the students of Lenore County schools as successful as possible under the extraordinary circumstances that has existed during the last year. We would also like to thank all students, parents, teachers, and staff for making the Summer Learning Academy program a success. We, the board, would like to welcome all students, teachers, and staff to a new school year and commit to doing whatever is necessary to ensure a productive and successful school year. We, the board, want to assure all stakeholders that the board will commit to trying to do everything possible to provide for a safe and healthy environment for the students, staff, and our community. That concludes my comments. Now, Chair recognizes Mr. Brett Williams for his report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As the chairman noted, we did have a very successful summer enrichment program. A lot of our teachers transitioned almost immediately from a regular school year like no other, almost immediately to summer learning. And that plane had to be built as we were flying it because there's never been a summer enrichment program like that. What was our participation? We had among the highest participation levels. A county near us has double the student enrollment we do, and we had 3 times the participation. And I say that only for comparison's sake, but I'm very, very proud of that. Our teachers worked the phones. They got up with our parents. Our parents were engaged, and to the parents here tonight, I thank you for everything that you did to contribute to making that successful. To our teachers and teacher assistants and bus drivers and child nutrition workers and everybody who combined to make that summer experience successful, thank you for your hard work and your dedication. And I believe that our students benefited from it. As Ms. Herring will share tonight in her presentation, an overwhelming majority, in fact every student in there experienced some type of growth, but an overwhelming majority showed significant gains on the assessments that our teachers conducted. And we are just so proud of that and proud of our kids first and our teachers, and it's just an amazing experience and one that we're very grateful and blessed to have been able to be a part of and to provide for our students. So we thank them. Today's a big week in the school system. Our teachers are coming back this week, and they'll be at a fast and furious pace getting ready for those orientations and getting ready for the students to return, and we're excited about that. As you will hear tonight in our proposal for the school year, we are proposing the most normal, as close to normal as we've had a school year since the COVID-19 shutdown. We are proposing, unlike last year with 4 days a week of face-to-face instruction, we're proposing 5 days a week of face-to-face instruction. We're proposing 100% capacity in our schools with all of our students back for exclusive face-to-face instruction. We are bringing our kids back. We're excited about that. We want to have normal school days. Instead of early release, we're having full school that we can, and we'll have a lot of plans that we'll make parents aware of. Mama, don't want to put you on the spot, but if you would, it takes us all, right? Elizabeth said she didn't get there by herself. Let's give her a about your experiences, and I know you'll represent us at the national competitions, or the national convention.
Yes, sir. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Espina. I'm a student at North Carolina State University, majoring in ag ed. My experience with the FFA was not really a normal one. I have to give a shout out to my mom who signed me up for my first ag class. In all sincerity, we joined it because I thought it was going to be an easy A. But I stuck with it. As Mr. Brent Williams said, I will be competing at Indianapolis this upcoming fall, representing this North Carolina State FFA Association in prepared public speaking. I'll be competing with the other winners from Austin Nation. That'll be a great opportunity. In serving as state president, I've already had an incredible start of my year of service. Attending today, just today I went to Southwest Johnson, I went to Eastern Wayne. I've traveled already across the state getting to meet FFA members and getting to train them on becoming better FFA officers, better FFA chapter officers, and to become better FFA advocates. But yeah, I'm very excited and looking forward to my year of service.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Great job, Elizabeth, and thank you, Mr. Spence, for all that you and your team are doing to work with her. We're proud of all of our FFA chapters and really career and technical education. Miss Amy Jones, our director, is here tonight. They just do an amazing job with our kids, connecting schools to the world of work. So proud of them. Congratulations to Ms. Melissa Manning, a teacher at Contentnia Savannah K-8 School, who has been selected by the North Carolina Council of Teachers of Mathematics to make a presentation on effective, outstanding instructional practices for mathematics instruction at their state conference in Winston-Salem on November 11th and 12th. Congratulations to Ms. Manning. When you see Ms. Manning, congratulate her. We will bring her to a subsequent meeting and present her with a certificate of congratulations. Congratulations also to Ms. Connie Chesson, Math Curriculum Specialist. This is the meeting of math, right? Math Excellence in Lenore. Math Curriculum Specialist for LCPS, who was recently inducted into the East Carolina University School of Education Hall of Fame. She was inducted by Dr. Art Rouse, interim dean of the School of Education. So great job, Ms. Chesson. We are very proud of you. The Southeast Regional Group of School Districts, known as our RESA for the Southeast region, under the leadership of Dr. Kathy Spencer, held its Professional Development Institute, its annual institute, this summer, actually week before last. And I'm proud to tell you, of the 33 presentations that they had, Lenore County Public Schools was selected to, our teachers and administrators were selected to present 12 of them. So for all of the counties of the Southeast region, from Brunswick County up to Wayne County, all the way out to Carteret County, back to Sampson and Clinton City, and all the counties in there, our county represented 12 of those presentations, and those were instances of innovation. So proud of the teachers involved in that and everybody who had a hand in it. Dr. Spencer called today to say, make sure you congratulate them. I said, it's already on my agenda. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Any questions or comments from Mr. Williams? Yes, Mr. King?
Not a comment related to that, but I'm just checking on our audio. I'm getting messages that our audio is not.
Yes, on the live stream, we're having an issue with the audio. We've been working on it.
Okay. Okay, just out of
Is it-
respect
is it
for our
resolved?
folks coming up to
No,
speed.
sir, not yet. We're working on it.
We don't have audio. I'm just,
Can those in the room hear, I mean, what's projected through here? I know you,
It's just on the live stream.
okay. Charles, do you need a minute to work on that, or
I'm sorry, sir.
do you need a minute to work on that and get it resolved, or is it okay?
It's okay to keep going.
I could tell he was working hard back there.
We are. We're going.
Well, if we're not streaming, we should recess until we're able to stream. The meeting was noticed as being available to the public that way, so if we can, I don't know how much time you may need.
I don't know either.
Okay.
Is it, Charles, make the call, is it resolved?
It is not resolved at this moment. We're working on it, but I've never had the audio just stop, so I don't know whether it's on the stream end or whether it's an equipment failure, but I'd have to touch each piece. So we're.
Attorney Murkison, would you recommend a 5-minute recess?
I would recommend a recess until we see what might be causing this, yeah.
So,
You do recommend a 5-minute recess?
I recommend a recess until we know what the cause of this and how long it may be.
Okay.
Absolutely.
We're in recess then until we resolve the issue.
I didn't want to interrupt you. I almost did, but I didn't want to interrupt.
That's fine.
I think the magnitude of this is I mean, if I'm gonna guess, I might as well pour it on you. That got me in trouble 34 years ago.
It'll take a few minutes for the looker and so on.
Billy, ask Murray if he understood what Carl said. Ask him if he understood what we're doing.
Merle, do you understand what's going on?
Yes, I can hear it just fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
He said he can understand.
He can hear fine.
Yeah.
Okay, live.
My phone was about to vibrate off the table.
Mark? Mr. White? I think it's working.
Yeah.
Got audio going on.
Somebody told me audio working.
Working on it.
Yeah.
What did he say?
We can go with audio and no video. That's probably all right. They don't want to look at us anyway. Not all of them, some of them.
Cleared it up.
Some of them,
Good job.
especially one of them.
Good save. Good save.
Good job, good job.
I really like him. I don't.
But he ain't talking about me.
I'm talking about it.
You just won't be quiet.
I get ratings, man.
He's good, right? He's now the strangest person. It's Mark.
How do you like the brick house? I don't know if Bruce lives down there.
the windshield like this one. So if you don't, the wind will blow strong. The wind blows my contact out of there. I just don't think it's but you can have drop most of them. You'd be surprised. You would be surprised. I think that if you would let me put you on a little tip, and you listen to what I say, I will time you. The motorcycle will hold you. One of you, the two, gyro that stand there. Actually, it's more to turn than it is to stay up.
Someone that said, we said they got audio.
What do they have?
Okay, we know that too.
I want this thing big. She didn't. And she wouldn't hurt me going to school. Right at that particular point in my life. We went to a motorcycle race last year. We were going on different.
You can see it in no audio. Some problem in the hyper system.
I understand we have the issue resolved. So we will continue with the meeting.
Wait, you finished with your report?
Of course, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Williams, for your report. So, we do have some citizens who have signed up to speak tonight during the public comments section. So just as a reminder to all, comments are to be limited to 3 minutes per person. No one would be allowed to be heard in open session regarding student or employee matters. Board members will not respond to individuals who address the board except to request clarification of points made by the presenter. So if you would, I'll call your name in order. And you, if you will, please forgive me right to start with. I'm not very good at pronunciation of names. So if I pronounce your name incorrectly, please correct me. Okay, and I believe that Mrs. Murchison, our attorney, will be our timekeeper. Okay. So the first name on the list for public comment is Jamie Moore.
Starting route to the Borough Restaurant and Bar.
He must be hungry.
Proceed to West Vernon Avenue, then turn right.
Board members, parents, and community members, my name is Jamie Moore. I'm a third grade teacher at LaGrange Elementary School. I'm a parent of a Lenore County Public School student and an active member of the community. It is an honor to come and speak tonight, and I'm here tonight to ask that the board vote in favor of allowing parents the right to decide what works best for their own children in the 2021-22 school year. I'm advocating that the decision to mask children should be one that each parent makes based on individual student need. While we are still not back to normal, we are in a much, much better place. Thankfully, we know more now. We can all agree that knowledge brings power. Armed with the knowledge that children are extremely low risk for transmitting and contracting the disease and almost no risk of fatality from this disease, we can all breathe a little easier beginning this school year. I can tell you as a teacher watching the sea of kindergartners walk the hallways with only their little eyes showing and those eyes just searching for a face or a reassuring smile, it's hard. Masking everyone in schools is just not the best practice. And I think that it has definitely harmed some of our students, even though we did what we thought was best last year and what we had to do. Children and adults rely on facial expressions and cues for learning, to interact socially, to make connections with verbal and nonverbal cues, and so much more. This year, we have the power to make a different decision. I know that we are fully capable of making sound, safe choices at school while also allowing those parents who wish to unmask their children in school that opportunity. I think we can keep kids safe and unmasked. We can do both. Things like seating, spacing, no water fountain use, hallway procedures, lunchroom procedures, these are all things that we could easily continue or adjust while allowing our kids to see their teachers' faces, each other's faces, and to breathe freely. And certainly, any parents that prefer masks could make that choice for their child as well. So far, the majority of North Carolina school districts have voted to let parents make this personal health decision for their children. 51 school districts have voted to make masks optional for students and staff. Lenore County Public Schools is one of the 23 districts still deciding. We're simply voting tonight to allow each parent to choose what's best for their own children. In the business that I'm in, everyone wants what is best for our students. Everybody in this room. We want kids to be safe. We want them to have a meaningful learning experience. And one thing that Mr. Williams always says every year, he has a beginning of the year teacher pet rally at every school, is that the parents are sending us their best, their most prized possessions. So let us be careful tonight and mindful that we do not supersede a parent's choice for their children. We've been given a new opportunity this year. It is the opportunity to allow parents the choice to mask if they choose so or not. Let's not take that parental choice away. Please vote tonight to rightly give that choice to parents. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. The next name on the list is Eve Honeycutt.
Good evening. My name is Eve Honeycutt, and I'm a parent of 2 children in Lenore County Public Schools. Being part of a public school community is probably one of the most important things we can do for our children's education. Our children are surrounded by loving teachers and receive an excellent education. They are also receiving a social education because they interact with all types of children from diverse backgrounds. My family lives in Greene County. We chose to send our children to Lenore County Public Schools for a variety of reasons, but one of which was our relationships with the teachers. I trust my children with Lenore County Public School teachers, and we have enjoyed our time spent in this school system. Parents make tough choices for their children every day. They are given the right to choose what they think is best for their children. Ultimately, it is the parents that must take the responsibilities for the choices that they make. Health and safety in the public school system is always important. The school should be responsible for providing safe and clean environments for children to learn. However, the school should not be mandating that children, teachers, and staff wear cloth to cover their faces. This choice is personal for the staff, parents, and children. Parents, teachers, and staff should discuss their health concerns with their doctor, not with members of the school board. These are not your children. We know our children and we know what's best for them. We know our risks. We as taxpayers paid to keep these schools running, and we elect you as a board to govern the education of our children. Your position on this board does not include making decisions regarding the health of each individual child. Please respect our ability to make decisions for our family. My family requests that you leave the decision to wear masks up to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Honeycutt. Next on the list is Mr. Jonathan Britt.
Good afternoon. I'm Jonathan Britt, parent of 2 LCPS students. I want to encourage you to make mask wearing optional for students and staff for this school year, just as you had the option of wearing masks at tonight's meeting. Here's why. Number 1, parents and caretakers are best suited for making decisions impacting our children's health. Number 2, masks provide no material impact on slowing the spread of COVID. The National COVID-19 School Response Dashboard indicates U.S. schools requiring masks actually experience higher case rates than schools without mask requirements, although case rates in both instances were low. Europe PMC reviewed the impact of school mitigation practices on staff and student COVID-19 case rates exclusively in Florida, New York, and Massachusetts during the last school year and found no correlation with mask mandates. Another recent study out of the UK proved once again that what we've known for more than a year. Kids transmit the coronavirus at a much lower rate than adults. States with open schools didn't have more child COVID cases, hospitalization, or deaths, and schools without mask mandates didn't have significantly more cases. Number 3, kids already have a very low susceptibility to getting sick from COVID. Hospitalization from COVID-19 in kids ages 5 to 17 for the week ending July 24, 2021 was 0.3 per million. A recent review of vaccination effectiveness shows that an unvaccinated child under 18 years old has less risk of COVID mortality than vaccinated adults over 35. The CDC's central estimate for pediatric COVID deaths through May 21, that's nearly 2 full respiratory seasons, indicated a 99.999% survival rate, with 332 deaths out of almost 27 million total infections. For perspective, of children 12 years and younger, 636 died in car accidents in 2018, and child flu deaths for 2019 to 2020 were 434. Number 4, it is unjust and psychologically destabilizing to make children live as if they are in danger when they are not. Besides the normal social and learning problems that come from masking, a young child who's being told to mask up at school to avoid a deadly disease is being conditioned to view his or her school and the world around them as more perilous than it is. That child is being conditioned to view her parents as ejecting her from the safety of the home into something that is a threat to her. In conclusion, COVID mortality is now the lowest since the start of the pandemic in 2020, and anyone under 65 years old has a 99.5% chance or better of surviving an infection. Vaccines are now available to those who choose to take it, and the governor's mask mandate is no longer in effect. We're at a point in this pandemic where mitigation strategies should be based on individual health risk assessments, not one-size-fits-all or emotional do-something approaches.
Mr. Britt, you are out of time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Britt. Next person on the list is Angela Hill.
My name is Angela Hill, and I have a child that has actually graduated from the public school system here, one in middle school, and I have one that's going to be coming through the system soon. I'm asking as a more personal level. I have a son who has ADHD. He has learning disabilities. The masks have hindered him. And I'm trying not to cry, but I watch my child struggle, and I'm tired of watching him struggle. He needs to go back to a normal school. He needs to go back to where he sees the teacher smile and know that he's done something right, because he needs that. He also needs, the teacher needs to see him to know he's learning, he's reacting, he's getting what she's teaching. It's not a politics. It's not anything more than we need to look out for our kids, because that's why we're here. We started this meeting praying, and when we started this meeting praying, God gave us these children to make decisions for. Not the government, not anybody else. We are to make these decisions for our children and what benefits them best. I respect any parent that wants to mask their child, because that is their decision, that is their child. But I ask that you give us, as parents, our privilege to accept and to decide what is right for our children.
Thank you, Ms. Hill. Next on the list is Kristen Woodruff.
She is in the hallway with a small infant right this moment. Can we go to the next person on the list?
Okay, we will. Okay, the next person is Mike Houston.
Good evening. My name's Mike Houston. I'm the parent of 3 children, 2 of which have gone through the Lenoir County Public School System from K through 12. I currently have one that will be transitioning into 8th grade this year. And I don't have a speech prepared, but I stand with the speakers before me. As a parent, we've had that decision from day one to make medical choices, good, bad, or indifferent. I don't feel that the government, as a school system, has that right to make those choices for us. I do support the parents and children that choose to wear a mask. I feel like that's their right, just as it's our right not to wear them. I think the science is clear. The young children are less likely to be harmed. And I'd also like to say that I have seen pictures in the last 2-3 weeks, over the last couple of months, of administrators, teaching staff, senior staff, politicians at banquets, award ceremonies, all of which unmasked. I want that to be kept in mind for everyone in this room. I think you also you serve as an example for our children. So depending on what choice you make tonight, you need to also serve as an example for your choices. Now, in closing, I'm not for the mask. I personally don't like it. My child didn't like it. It affected my child throughout the last school year, emotionally, educationally, socially. I think the betterment of the children is to let the parents make that choice. And I ask tonight that you consider letting the parents make the choice. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Houston. Next on the list is Heather Carlisle.
My name is Heather Carlisle, and I'm a teacher's assistant and a bus driver in Lenoir County, but I'm also a mother. As much as I love my job with the school system, I am a mother first, and that is why I'm so concerned with continuing with a mask mandate this school year. We, meaning the parents and the teachers, have spent a year and a half complying with the school board's recommendations. During this time, I saw firsthand how the virtual schooling and mask mandates affected our children. I saw students fall through the cracks, and even more so, saw how teachers spent countless hours preparing on how they were going to teach the children and how they were going to keep their attention during meetings. I have also spent hours throughout the day encouraging children to pull up their mask and discarding them off of the school bus from where they decided they didn't need it. It is very heartbreaking and devastating to see a teacher have to stop in the middle of her lesson to have to encourage a student to pull up their mask and then have to start teaching all over again. There have been other times where I have seen parents and teachers worry if their child was learning everything that they were supposed to during the year, myself included. I understand that the CDC's rules have changed once again recently, but because of the CDC's indecisiveness is why I think the mask mandate should be up to the parents. After all, the parent knows their child better than anyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carlisle. Next name on the list is Connie Smith.
So, I am Connie Smith, and I am a grandparent, and I'm here to support these young parents. I don't have anything that's in writing. As you can tell, I got my hands full here with a new one that comes, and I would just like to say that one of the first things that a child at this age right here that is 3 weeks old is the interaction of facial expression with their parents. That's one of the first things that they learn in life. And I would like to be in full support of parents making their own decision about what's right for their children. And I know that all of us that are here that's got some age on us, we've been through the system with our children, and it's time for our children to make the decisions what's right for their kids. So it's a new world. It's something we've never had to face in ours, but this is what they're having to do in theirs. Give them the opportunity to step up to the plate and be the parents that they need to be. And I thank y'all for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Next is Melissa Murray.
So I also, this was fly by the seat of my pants, I just did make it here tonight, so I didn't have anything prepared. But as a healthcare worker who has dealt with COVID on the front line, and seen it and seen the detriments from it, but I have also, I have a daughter, I have a couple of Lenore County students. I have seen the effect of the mental health, all of the effects of the virtual learning, the mask mandate. I believe in all of our right to choose. I respect that the Board of Education is here to make the decisions to keep our school running and to keep our children safe. And I respect that you make decisions based on your best judgment. However, I don't give you my child when I drop her off at school. I don't hand her to you. I trust you with her. I trust you to care for her. I trust you to make good judgments for her. But the period of time that she remains with you from 8 to 3 or whatever time she's with you, she is still mine. She's still my child, just to speak of my one that's in middle school. She's still my daughter. I feel that I am perfectly capable of making my child's healthcare decisions. I respect people who put masks on. I respect it. I don't wear them at all times. I do when I need to, when I'm required to. But I believe that us as parents, they are our children. And we should be trusted with the right to make whatever health decisions we need to make. This is a healthcare decision. It is a healthcare decision. So if we are trusted to make all the other healthcare decisions for our children, we should be the one making this decision. And like she said, give us an opportunity to step up to the plate and make the judgments that need to be made for our children, because I know what is best for my child. And then, of course, people the ones who choose to wear a mask, wear a mask. I completely respect that. But we're asking you for what should already be ours, in my opinion, our own right to make our decision for our child.
Thank you, Ms. Murray. Jennifer Veal.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Thank you all for having me. First off, I want to say that I'm a concerned parent for my children who are in the Lenore County Public School System. And as you stated earlier, safety is the main priority for everyone, not just students, the staff, everyone. And putting schools at 100% capacity increases the risk for everyone. That's just the bottom line. And there are still many people who are not vaccinated. Some people have medical conditions that it is not safe for them to get the vaccine, and I think that needs to be considered. We have to always consider all the factors. Not everybody has the same situations, so we need to keep that in consideration. And I think that it's important, as you talked about safety, we need to remember that children can't thrive in an unsafe environment. And putting everybody in an environment where we give everybody an option to wear a mask is not safe. So I understand and I know that the past year and a half has been challenging for everyone, the students, parents, staff, everybody. But I don't think that requiring everybody to, have masks making masks optional for everyone is a feasible solution. With cases continually rising. So I think that, everybody has pointed out prior here, and I get that opinions are valid, but we need to stick to what you've said as far as the safety of everybody. And I think that if we're gonna have students at 100% capacity, we need to make sure that everybody is safe and protected, and we should be making masks required. So thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Veal. And now we'll come back to Kristen Woodruff.
Okay, so I am Kristen. I have one daughter in school age, then two little ones that are eventually going to be coming through, so a parent of three. And I am a nurse and have worked through the pandemic. I have seen all view sides of this and totally believe also that this virus is real, but that it is a lot of factual information. You can think for yourself and look and do research. The media has completely fabricated a lot of issues, and I've seen firsthand doing my own research. You can even go on the CDC's website for yourself and find that there's several misconstrued, as you know, back and forth mask mandates. Personally, I wear my mask at work. As you can see in the media right now, there's a lot of issues with healthcare workers as well going on. I don't know if y'all have seen the news lately, but it's being mandated that healthcare workers take a vaccine that's not even FDA approved. So personally for me, that is a serious concern for our children's safety, being that they're now doing trials on children as well. I cannot believe the state that our country is in. It's very emotional for me as a parent because I truly and strongly believe that we should have our own choice to make healthcare decisions, and that is personal, that the whole world should not be provided your vaccine record. Yes, I understand for schools that vaccination has been pushed. I also think that was wrongful in the past, that certain vaccines were always pushed for parents to have their child enrolled, and that's another way for our country to continue to push people into mandates. And this will only continue if we allow it and we don't stand up for our children in the future. I don't believe that our country is concerned about our safety at all. So that's to begin with. Masking is a parent's choice. It should have always been. For centuries now, we have had viruses that have, all throughout history, as you know, we've had viruses, and people have lived and died. That is part of life. Death is part of life. Why are we so afraid? Why are we so afraid? So, anyways, there's no proof that this mask prevents the spread of COVID. Vaccinated people are still contracting a COVID virus. I personally, my supervisor, got both doses of the shot, and immediately, a couple weeks later, contracted the virus. Coincidental? I don't know, maybe. Anyways, there's several people I work with that have been vaccinated. I haven't, and I don't plan to ever, if possible, God willing. I don't believe that this vaccine is effective and it's unsafe. The studies being released will prove on the website. Go look for yourself. Please don't take my word for it. Do your own research. Masks are developmentally a problem for all children all the way through adolescence to teenagers.
Ms. Wood, your time is up.
Oh, okay. So anyways, that's my 2 cents. I have a child that has a hearing.
Your time is up.
Okay, my child has a hearing loss, so it's very
Ms.
important
Wooten.
that she see people's facial expressions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Woodruff, and I believe that is all, everyone that had signed up to speak tonight. The board would like to thank the public for their time, interest, and comments pertaining to Lenore County Public School System. We always want to hear from our stakeholders. All right. Now we'll move to the presentation portion of the agenda. Chair recognizes Mrs. Frances Herring to present a summary of the Summer Enrichment Academy program.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. This evening I would like to share with you a few of the successes that we have experienced during our Summer Enrichment Academies in kindergarten through high school. Each of the grade spans elementary, middle, and high school. The data is a little bit different, so just follow me as we go through it, please. So the daily attendance in elementary was fantastic. I was very, very impressed. Our staff did an outstanding job of encouraging students and families to send their children. You can see here that the overall LCPS average for elementary students is 369 students. And you notice we broke it out into all 3 of our elementary sites, and the attendance was high at all 3 of them, and very similar, which I thought was very interesting. Now, we'll be talking about MAPS data and RIT scores, and I know that probably sounds a little bit like Greek, so I just wanted to give you a quick overview of what that is. We have universal screeners. It's MAPS, NWEA MAPS, and we use that to provide a benchmark for us to know where students are, what they have mastered, what they haven't mastered particularly, and we're able to gear the instruction specifically to support that student. So our MAP testing results, all of the MAP testing results are called RIT scores, and RIT is short for a ROS unit. It's more than what we need to talk about right now. But anyway, a RIT score is an estimation of a student's instructional level. So it's sort of an overall picture of where the student is instructionally. It also measures the student progress or the growth that they've made. MAP assessments do the same sort of thing. It tells us where the children are on an instructional level. However, it's very specific to students' growth in math and reading. So you might hear about students saying, well, I took my reading MAP test today, or I took my math MAP test today. It's not a punitive test. It's not something that goes in the grade books. It's strictly a formative assessment to help us know where students are and to help gauge their growth. And you can see here the percentage of students who made growth on their MAPS assessments in each of the 3 elementary sites was really staggering. It was very impressive. And we broke it down here by each of the elementary sites for the summer and by the K-5 grades. So it was really impressive numbers, and we were very happy with the results. The overall average growth for reading and math in the MAP scores, reading had a 58% growth, and math we had a 62% overall average growth, which was really great. And this chart on the right simply breaks it down for reading and math by grade level. So the one before was by site, and this just breaks it down for the overall average growth on MAPS by our elementary grades. And you can see that the numbers really are impressive. Our middle school summer enrichment opportunity was equally good. The average attendance for all 3 of our middle school sites was 354 students a day, which is outstanding. At the Frank Middle School site, which housed our middle school students from Frank and Continuous Savannah, 44% of the students showed an increase on their maps from the spring when they took it in, when they were in school in the spring, and when they took it again this summer, which was fantastic. It's a tremendous amount of growth. At our Rochelle Middle School site, they were actually housed at Kinston High School. 56% of the students showed an increase on their maps from the most recent RIT score they had in the spring to when they took it again in the summer. And at our Woodington site, 56% of the students, when they took their maps this summer, showed significant growth increases from when they had taken their maps in the spring. So again, just outstanding results. The high school summer enrichment, it looks a little different because they don't, we haven't done the maps testing at the high schools. We're bringing it on board this coming year, but to date, we have not used maps as a universal screener in the high schools. So this data is a little different. So in the high school, students earn credit. So when they pass a class, they earn a credit. And you have to have 27 credits to graduate from high school in Lenoir County. And so at each of these sites, you see how many actual credits were earned. So when you see credit, think class. So our high school students earned 1,039 credits this summer. That's outstanding. And a credit, a student, to be a freshman, a sophomore, junior, or senior, you don't really like make your grade in high school like you do, like you talk about middle school and elementary school, did you make your grade? In high school, it's the number of credits. It's a combination of required credits and in addition to a certain number of other credits as a combination for you to be promoted to the next level from freshman to sophomore and so forth. And so many of these students may have only needed 1 or 2 credits to be promoted to the next grade level, and they were able to earn it in the summer, which will increase our high school graduation rate, and it will decrease our dropout rate. So we're very excited about the credits earned at the high school. Now, credentials is the next column. Those are our career and technical education credentials. And our students are, I like to say our students earned 115 CTE credentials, and that provides them with the ability to go into the next level, the college level, and it propels them to be able to earn certificates and employment even quicker. The total number of summer promotions, and this is really exciting, 154 of our high school students were actually promoted to the next grade because of the credits or the credentials that they were able to earn this summer, and that's outstanding. And our average daily attendance, you'll see, was about the same at all 3 of our high school sites, nothing out of the ordinary. But we, on average, had 437 high school students in school every day during our summer enrichment academies. And our final report is due October 31st to DPI. What we have to report to DPI is the total number of credits earned, credentials earned, and growth made in the assessments that we use, which is the MAPS, and that's a DPI approved assessment, universal screener. So I've given you sort of a sneak peek to the data that we're going to turn into DPI October 31st. But we're really excited. This is one of the reports I'm excited to submit to DPI. So I want to thank you for your time tonight. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
All right, are there any questions or comments from Mrs. Harry? All right, thank you, Mrs. Harry, for the update. And as you can see from Mrs. Harry's presentation, the Summer Enrichment Academy program proved to be very successful. All right, Chair recognizes Mrs. Pam Heath and Mrs. Lynn Morris to give a summary of the beginning teacher orientation.
Good evening. It's indeed our privilege to report to you this evening about the continuation of a very successful tradition with Lenoir County Public Schools. As required by the state's Beginning Teacher Support Plan, all first-year beginning teachers are to participate in mandatory beginning teacher training before the opening week of school. This wonderful 3-day professional development opportunity was conducted last week on August 3rd through 5th. Mrs. Lynn Morris, our new beginning teacher support coordinator, and Mrs. Jennifer Sutton, our new beginning teacher support specialist, created many lively and interesting activities that kept the participants engaged and enlightened. It was a pleasure to welcome around 30 excited, enthusiastic, and anxious women and men of all ages. Beginning teachers are not necessarily babies. They're not in their 20s. They come in all shapes and sizes and ages. This was their very first experience with our school system. Any additional first-year teachers who are board approved for employment in the next few weeks will have the opportunity also to receive an abbreviated version of this orientation. All of our first-year teachers will participate in monthly BT professional development throughout the 21-22 school year. Mrs. Morris will now give you a few details about the activities that were included in last week's new teacher orientation sessions. Mrs. Morris?
Thank you, Ms. Heath. We had 24 teachers to attend this 3-day event. 8 teachers from our 4 high schools were represented: North Lenoir High School, Kinston High School, Lenoir County Early College High School, and South Lenoir High School. 8 teachers from our 3 middle schools were represented: Contentnia Savannah, E.B. Frink, and Rochelle. And 8 teachers from our 6 of our elementary schools were represented: Contentnia Savannah, LaGrange, Moss Hill, Northwest, Pink Hill, and Southeast. Teachers who were unable to attend this orientation will be provided an opportunity at a later date. Each day was filled with important information. Ms. Pamela Heath, our Director of HR, she reviewed board policies, the beginning support team. We provided professional development on the importance of classroom procedures and how to prepare for the first days of school. Heather House from the North Carolina New Teacher Support Program, through a partnership with ECU, she provided professional development on classroom management, building positive relationships with students. During the school year, these coaches will meet weekly with new teachers and provide 3 additional professional development opportunities. Lori Bryant, our lead payroll specialist, provided information on annual leave, sick leave, pay periods, pay dates, and very important, summer cash. Julie Hill, Director of EC, Sarah Stocks, our MTSS and 504 coordinator, along with Lakeisha Sutton and Georgia Moretti, led discussions on our Exceptional Children's Program, MTSS and 504 procedures, and behavior support. Our LCPS CIET team, Melissa Lynch, Stacy Cawley, Crystal Carlisle, and Amy Jones, they led a professional development on understanding goals, standards, and learning targets. Our culminating activity was on August the 5th. New teachers and mentors and building administrators came together to fellowship over lunch, after which they all returned to their schools to begin their planning. Thank you.
And you see here a group of our wonderful, enthusiastic, brand new teachers for the 21-22 school year. We'll be happy to entertain any questions that you have at this time.
Are there any questions or comments for Mrs. Heath or Mrs. Morris? Okay, thank you, Mrs. Heath and Ms. Morris, for your report.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Mrs. Frances Herring to give an overview of the current Cognia school system accreditation cycle and the steps moving forward for the 2026 district accreditation review.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate it. I bet you all thought I was done talking about Cognia, but I'm not. So we finished our last 5-year cycle, and the billboard across the street proves that we made an A in our Cognia evaluation for the last 5 years. We did an outstanding job. I'm really proud of our staff. But the very next day, we started on our next 5-year accreditation. And so we're anxiously waiting for 2026 so they can come back again and we'll tell them how great we are all over again. So tonight, the purpose of tonight's presentation is to share with you the things that we are doing in preparation and for our 2026 review and what it's going to take for us to get there. Okay, so this was a letter that Mr. Williams received just very recently, actually. Even though the evaluation team met with us, as you know, in March, it has to be voted on, it has to be approved and conferred by the Cognia Global Commission. Because as you know, Cognia is an international accreditation team, and they accredit universities, school systems, businesses, all sorts of institutions all over the world. And we were actually formally approved and conferred by the Global Commission June 14th and 15th. And so this is our actual official letter. And we're very excited about this. And you know, they tell us that we have to celebrate, and you know, we love to do that. So we go overboard, and you know, I love you overboard. As we move forward, these are some things that we're going to need to do. The In Focus Guidebook is provided to us by Cognia, and it is an 83-page resource, but it's very, very helpful. The In Focus Guidebook has 4 different phases in preparation for your review. The envisioning phase, your planning phase, your implementing phase, and your evaluating phase. And of course, this is very similar to the process that we use in our school improvement planning and our district improvement planning. So this is not anything new. All it does truly is underscore the importance of the work that we have done for years and years. But we will be following the In Focus Guidebook from Cognia. The description of the In Focus Guidebook is that it is a guide for strategic thinking and improvement planning. This resource acts as either a standalone guide or a guide for moving through every phase of the eProve strategies application. The guide will help you or help us stay on course to achieve the intended outcome. So it helps us pace ourselves as well, which is very much appreciated. The next steps for us specifically are highlighted on the next few slides. So we have ongoing work on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, a monthly basis, quarterly basis, and yearly basis. A huge piece of that is our NC STAR monitoring that all of our schools participate in. The NC STAR is, as you know, the platform that houses all of the school improvement plans for each of our 17 schools. And part of that monitoring process and improving process, our schools present their NC STAR school improvement plans to our staff, our senior services staff, in September. And then they present it to us again in January. And the reason for that is it's so that we can provide feedback to our schools and support for our schools. So they meet us here, actually in this boardroom, and they present their plan to us. And as they go through and explain what they are working on, what their indicators are in NC STAR, we are also able to provide feedback from them, suggestions for improvement, and it gives us an opportunity to brainstorm with the school with regards to improvement. And then once we have those presentations in September, we ask them to come back in January and tell us how did it go. You had the first semester to implement some of these things that you had listed in your NC STAR presentations. Where are you now? So constant monitoring and constant assessing is the key to growth and making progress. And as you know, the board is invited to these. So we will send you the dates for the September presentations, and we'll send you the dates when we have them for the January presentations. And we do love for you to come and join us, and we'll have the schedule for you. We want you to come see all 17 presentations, or you can choose the ones that you would like to come and review. So we'd love to have you, absolutely. We also pay very close attention to our professional learning and making sure that our professional learning is aligned to our district goals and to the Cognia recommendations that came from our last report. While we had an outstanding report, there's always room for growth and there's always room for improvement. And so we'll be focusing on those moving forward. We also will have committee-driven solutions with all of our stakeholders. You can't move forward unless your stakeholders are involved. And so as we identify the things that we need to firm up and the things we need to move forward, we will be pulling in stakeholders from all spectrums in order to help us find those solutions. Our goal also in next steps is to increase our graduation rate. You know, it's the highest it has been in Lenore County this past year. And even in this past year, we were in COVID, we still increased our graduation rate while we were remote. And so we're very proud of that. And we'll also be working towards decreasing our dropout rate, which it is at an all-time low for Lenore County Public Schools. And our goal is to cut that in half and to continue to stop the dropout rate. We will be monitoring and providing support of our district non-negotiables, which are included but not limited to our lesson plans, our common formative assessments, and our digital learning. These are all critical pieces to the curriculum and instruction that is mandated in all of our classrooms and with all of our educators. Our teachers write lesson plans, quality lesson plans that are based on the standards. We use common formative assessments so that we know exactly where we are teaching and where the students are and how do we need to adjust. And of course, we're a one-to-one district, we're an Apple district, and so digital learning is a critical piece to our next steps moving forward. I've given you a lot of information and a lot of things that we're going to be working on, but I do want to thank you for your constant support of all of our students and our staff. And at this time, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Any questions or comments for Mrs. Herring? Thank you, Ms. Herring, for your overview. And again, the board would like to thank all stakeholders for all of their dedication and hard work that allow the Lenore County Public School System to achieve such a high, I can't read my own handwriting, score for the 2021 Cognia Accreditation Review. A little light. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Ms. Harvey. Okay. Chair recognizes Mrs. Helen Hooker to present the financial report.
Good evening. The July 2021 financial report summarizes budget and year-to-date activity for all Lenore County Board of Education funds as of July 31st, 2021. Additionally, the report presents the unadjusted local current expense fund balance as of July 31st, 2021. If you've had a chance to review the report and you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them at this time.
Any questions or comments from Mrs. Hooker? Okay, thank you, Mrs. Hooker, for your report. Now we will move to the action portion of the agenda. Chair recognizes Mr. Brett Williams, Mrs. Frances Herring, Mr. Nick Harvey to present the proposed Lenore County Public School COVID-19 response plan for the opening of the 2021-2022 school year. And the chair also would like to welcome again and recognize Mrs. Pam Brown, Lenore County Health Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight, as Mr. Hill noted, we will provide an overview, a summary of our plan for reopening the school year. As we begin that, I do want to say, at the end of my superintendent's comments earlier, we had an interruption with the live streaming. I do want to say to all the parents here, thank you for taking the time tonight to come and to share your insights and perspectives and opinions. I hear you. I believe that we all hear you. And whatever you believe on these issues, I think that's important. As a parent, you know your child better than anybody else. And maybe we'll agree with what's done tonight. Maybe we won't agree with what's done tonight, but we do value you. We love your children, and we never take that responsibility for granted. So I thank you. Ms. Pam Brown, our health director, is here with us tonight. I'll begin. Ms. Herring will advance our slides tonight. We'll begin, and we've incorporated Ms. Brown's presentation into our presentation, and I'll provide the overview here. As I was saying earlier, we are excited. I've been really excited this summer because we've had a more traditional experience out in our schools with our summer enrichment. Attendance has been strong, our cases have been almost non-existent, our kids have been happy, our teachers have been happy, and Ms. Herring just shared the results with you. Like so many others, I was looking forward to a more normal school year, and we are proposing a lot of that tonight, and in fact, almost all of that tonight. And I certainly was looking forward to a school year that would have limited to no mask wearing. And Ms. Brown is going to give us some information about that tonight, and she's going to give us a clear recommendation from the Department of Health. The State Board of Education adopted the updated language in the Strong Schools Toolkit last week on Thursday and made a recommendation to the schools in the state. Governor Cooper has made a recommendation to the schools in the state. The NCDHHS has made a recommendation to the schools in the state. And tonight our health director is going to give us the perspectives from Lenoir County and the context here in the county. But our beginning here on the first slide, a more traditional approach to the start of the school year, bringing all of our kids back, not having the hybrid instruction with 30% of our students remote, bringing them back into our buildings, full capacity, face-to-face instruction, 5 days a week, not 4 days a week, full schedule, not amended schedule, as close to a regular school year as we can get it. That's what we're proposing. And we'll talk about the masking issue at the end after Mrs. Brown's presentation. Mrs. Herring will provide, through the instructional lens, she'll provide information about what we're proposing instructionally for parents and stakeholders, what the school year will look like from an instructional perspective. Mr. Harvey will provide that from an operational and management standpoint, auxiliary services, and student services. And then Mrs. Brown will make her presentation, and we'll come back around at the end. Okay? Ms. Herring?
Thank you so much, Superintendent Williams and Mr. Chairman and Board. Our teachers return tomorrow, so we're very excited to have them back in the building. Empty schools are strange, so if you've ever spent time in a school in the summer and there's no one in it, it's a very odd feeling. So we're very excited to welcome our teachers and our staff back tomorrow. Most of the schools will be having their opening faculty meetings tomorrow, which is very exciting. As a former principal, that's always a very big day. They will be welcoming, as you saw earlier in the beginning teacher presentation, they'll be welcoming new faculty members to our LCPS families tomorrow. And there will be school visits as the school year begins. We will be making our visits to the schools to welcome them back. We are focusing right now on professional learning that we're providing for everyone August 16th through the 20th, which is next week. Our district always provides a week of professional learning to get everyone ready for the new school year. So we'll be working on professional learning communities next week. We'll be working on lesson planning, Canvas and Seesaw, which, as you know, are our remote platforms. The Canvas platform is our middle and high school students use Canvas, and Seesaw is the remote platform that our elementary students use. And we will be also conducting departmental opening meetings next week. This is the opening week activities. Just to give you a quick, I hate to go to it because I won't be able to get back, but it's just a quick overview of all of the meetings and the sessions that we have scheduled for next week. And I'll be happy to email that to you this evening if you haven't already gotten it. Jessica already sent it to you. Our orientations are happening next week, so the students will be coming in to meet their teachers and receive their schedules and see what other children are in their class with them. The high school orientation for all the high schools will be Tuesday, August 17th. All of the middle school orientations will be next Wednesday, August 18th. And all of the elementary schools will have their orientation on Thursday, August 19th. And each of those orientations at every grade span will be conducted between 5 and 8 p.m. Parents should have already heard from their schools, or probably in a Connect Ed or in a letter regarding the orientation. If they haven't yet, they'll be coming very, very soon. So this also gives parents an opportunity, if you have students in multiple grade spans, you're not driving all over the county in one night trying to get to all the different schools before orientation is over. So if you have a middle school child, just worry about that on one day. If you have an elementary child, you can worry about that on another day. So we hope this will be very conducive to our families and to our staff members who all our staff members have children in the districts in the district, so it's easier for them too as well. So we hope this works for everyone. and I'll turn it over to Mr. Harvey.
Thank you, Ms. Aaron. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, board members. I will start with you as I started with senior staff this morning. We are ready. Services and operational side of the house is ready and excited about the new school year. We are prepared to receive our staff members on tomorrow, as Ms. Aaron just indicated, and we are even more excited to welcome our students back into our buildings full-time, 5 days a week on the 23rd of August. Our buildings are clean, our child nutrition and transportation departments are ready to serve and transport our students. Student and teacher technology devices are ready to be deployed, and our teachers will have all the tools necessary to provide a healthy and safe environment conducive to learning. Many of you have already seen the North Carolina toolkit as provided by the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services. Board members, I have attached the latest NC toolkit information to this presentation. We will discuss key changes in a moment. However, I do want to bring to your attention a quote directly from the document. With rapidly accelerating viral transmission and the increased contagiousness of the Delta variant, on the 27th of July, the CDC updated its guidance to include recommendations for universal indoor masking for all teachers, staff members, students, and visitors to K-12 schools, regardless of vaccination status. Regarding testing, Lenoir County Public Schools will continue the COVID-19 testing this fall for all students and staff members. As you may recall, LCPS was one of the first 15 LEAs in the state to pilot the COVID-19 testing program. I want to thank our team of outstanding nurses for their hard work and dedication last school year during the testing phase. There are a few items that were removed in the toolkit from previous guidance, and I think myself along with Ms. Brown may speak on those, but some of those were the field trips. Field trips are again approved. The daily screening, temperature check, CDC screener has been removed, and the flexible seating availability on buses to allow us to bring more of our students back into the schools each and every day to have a normal school day regarding transportation. Next, I want to talk about social and emotional learning. Lenoir County Public Schools will be intentional in its efforts to ensure that the social and emotional well-being of our students we have to take into consideration the fact that so many of our students are experiencing trauma at this moment. Consider this. All students, 5th grade and beyond, have experienced multiple classroom interruptions, including hurricanes, flooding, and the COVID-19 pandemic. If we neglect to include social emotional learning as a significant part of the conversations that we are currently having, we will not be equipped to meet the various needs of our students. We will be intentional in our efforts. Those efforts will start next week. We meet with all school social workers, nurses, and counselors, and then it will be an ongoing process throughout the 21-22 school year. Regarding athletics, we are excited about the start of our fall sports seasons. In the fall, I might add, the North Carolina High School Athletic Association has provided guidance for best practices as we enter the new athletic season. I have attached the entire document to this presentation as well. To quote the North Carolina High School Athletic Association guidance, it says, have all coaches, athletes, spectators, and other participants who are not fully vaccinated wear face covering indoors and practice physical distancing from anyone outside of their family unit at all times. I'll entertain any questions you have regarding the operational side of the house.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Anderson.
Ms. Harwood, is there anything that we can do to encourage as much outside instructional activities while we're in this phase of the calendar year? I mean, while the warm weather is still in place. Is there anything that we can do maintenance-wise to assist schools in setting up as many outside opportunities as possible?
That's something we can look at. I'll speak with the curriculum side of the house to see what their needs may be. I know there are some spaces for outdoor learning environments at schools. I don't know if it's conducive for entire grade levels at a time, but I know many schools have outdoor classrooms.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, if we can accommodate some classes outside, masks wouldn't be required outside.
It is not required outside, yes, sir.
I think we'll have to look at into that.
Point of clarity,
There is no mask requirement right now. There's a could and a should in the toolkit, and I just want to be clear that they are saying, the masking issue is coming under the should. The should is a strong recommendation that there's masking inside at schools by all people, but there's not a requirement at this point. That's something that it's up to you all.
Okay, Ms. Brennan?
Thank you very much for the invitation to be here tonight. I've really appreciated hearing all of the comments and the discussion that has gone on. This is a very difficult time, and I'm sure that we were all hoping at this point in the pandemic we would be in a very different place. And if you had asked me how I felt about Lenoir County in the pandemic 2 months ago, I would give you a very different answer than I would give you tonight, unfortunately. So it is, I did want to share a little bit of our local data and a little bit of a context for why I'm saying the things that I am. It is my recommendation that the school system follow the toolkit that DHHS has provided. And I think that masks are a really good should and really protective. So our cases across the United States and Lenoir County and North Carolina are increasing. And I think what's most striking about the image that you see on the screen is you see a huge spike that happened toward the end of 2020 and beginning of 2021, a really, really terrible time for all of us. And then you see a little bit of bump just after March, but you can see that trajectory come down very, very, very dramatically. And when you see it really start to come down very dramatically, that's when we were starting to get into second doses, particularly with our 65 and older and our long-term care facilities. So it shows the power of the vaccine by looking at this trajectory. And then you see a little bit of a bump, but what I'm most concerned about is at the very end of that chart, there's a really, really steep rise that is already surpassing that last bump that we had. And that's what concerns me right now. Next slide. So the state has now a 10.6% positivity rate. When I updated the commissioners a few weeks ago, Lenoir County was actually under 1% positivity rate, and I just wanted to do a dance. That's what we want to see. Right now, though, we are back up close to 7% in our positivity rate. We're seeing this at the health department too, with the testing that we're doing. We're seeing more test results that are coming back positive. So again, it's a trend that's echoed here as well. Next slide. So this is our hospitalization rate, and I'm really hopeful that because of the vaccination efforts, we won't see as much of a hospitalization rate as we have in the past, but it is going up, and it is going up pretty dramatically. And again, this is what's going on in North Carolina, but a lot of what's going on in North Carolina is being mimicked in our local community too. Next slide. And this shows the data from hospital emergency rooms. So again, you can see that the folks that were reporting for COVID-like symptoms really, really decreased pretty dramatically. And now we're seeing a pretty steep increase, as you can see on the red line. Next slide. Okay, and this is why, and this is why things are going on in Lenoir County too. So the health directors received a briefing a few weeks ago from the state, and they told us just to be on the lookout because Delta was going to really take over the cases. So you can see this data from the United States, and if you go to the next slide, you can see the North Carolina data. Back in March and April, Delta was not a United States concern. It was overseas. We were hoping that it could be contained overseas. But if you look at the North Carolina data from the sequencing of test results, in red you see Delta. So if you notice, even a couple of months ago, Delta was not even on our radar. It wasn't here. It wasn't prevalent in the United States. It was not in North Carolina. But just in the last 3 to 4 weeks, Delta has taken over to be the majority of cases in North Carolina, and Delta is in all 100 North Carolina counties at this time. Next slide. So this is what's really, really concerning to me. So anybody who followed the international news back in April and May, Delta was first sequenced and identified in India. And there was a lot that happened to that country because of Delta. So the United States was fighting the wild virus for most of 2020. But about that time, you saw that huge spike in December and January. That's when Alpha really started to become predominant in the United States and made its way to North Carolina as well. The Alpha variant is more transmissible than the version that we were fighting in 2020, and Delta is even more transmissible than Alpha was, and that's why we're seeing such a steep rise in cases. And the same thing is happening in Lenoir County. Just as an example, a few weeks ago, we reported that we were following about 100 cases in Lenoir County. As of Friday, we were following 213 known infections. And over the weekend, just in one system that's reported to the health department, we received notification of 86 cases just since Saturday. So I know that Delta must be here because we're seeing such a dramatic rise as well. So the thing that really concerns me is Delta is more transmissible. The studies are still out about if it is a more severe disease, and if so, for whom. So that data is still coming in. Fortunately, something that we do have going for us is that the vaccines are holding up pretty well against Delta. We do see some folks that are fully vaccinated that are getting sick, but very few of them are getting very sick to the point of needing hospitalizations. And that's why I'm hoping that the vaccination rates will help to protect our hospital system. But it was discovered from an outbreak that happened after the July 4th holiday in the Northeast. The CDC did a study of the cases. Half were vaccinated and half were not. And unfortunately with Delta has the ability not just to build up a bigger viral load, but it also has the ability to kind of hang out in the body, and that's why it's there longer, it's more prevalent, and so it can just spread from person to person so easily. So Alpha, one person might infect 1 or 2 people. With Delta, the thinking is it's more like 6 to 8 people, so those in close proximity. So, you know, if we were dealing with Alpha, I just almost welcome the days of Alpha back. We had a lot of things really going in our favor, and a lot of our numbers were just tanking in the right direction. Delta, I'm nervous about because, again, it's rather new in its virulence in the United States. So we don't have a lot of local data about it. We know it's here. We know it's causing illness. We know it's more transmissible. We're seeing it in our numbers, in the things that are happening in Lenoir County. But I just don't know enough about it yet to know, is it going to be harder on children? Is it going to be harder on young adults? Is it going to be harder on older folks? Is it going to be something that as we increase vaccination rates or take other precautions, will we be able to get it under control rather quickly? There's still a lot of unknown about it and exactly how it's going to impact Lenoir County. And that's why I think at this moment, until we know more about what Delta is going to do, about how it's going to impact North Carolina, about how it's going to impact our community, I think that it is good to think about protection, you know, very similarly to how we might protect our families at home. So, you know, when I think about protecting my home, I think about, well, I've got a big dog and maybe an alarm system, and I lock the doors and windows. I have a bunch of strategies because I want to offer the most protection that I can to those people who are in my home. So I think offering those layers of protection right now, when we're in this very vulnerable stage and we're still trying to figure out exactly what this variant might mean for us, I think it's good to have all of those tools available to us, with the caveat that, you know, things might start to change. You know, vaccination rates, other protective factors, maybe a variant that comes in that seems to be less devastating than this one. But I think at this time we're in a little bit of a more precarious position than maybe we have been in with the other variants. And you can see this is from CDC data, which I think is useful because North Carolina uses slightly different metrics. But you can see that we're actually considered a high risk or a high transmission community. And if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to try to answer them whenever it's appropriate, or the appropriate time.
No.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
We all have questions back here.
Questions don't come from the, this is a board meeting, so the board asks the questions.
We'll start asking questions.
So, Mr. Harvey, would you mind cutting the line off? Okay, so, as a point of privilege, I would like to make a comment, and I'd also like to ask a question. My comment is, we all want to get back to school to what we know is normal, as a normal school year, which includes in-person instruction, a full day of in-person instruction, a full week of in-person instruction, and full capacity in our classrooms and schools. And we all also want to keep our students, staff, and our community safe. Out of an abundance of caution and care for our students, staff, and community, and to be proactive in protecting our students, staff, and community, we as a school system should take the necessary precautions and steps to make sure that we provide not only a quality education for our students, but also a safe environment for them to learn and succeed, and a safe environment for our teachers and staff to foster learning and success. With that in mind, that being said, my question is for Ms. Murchison. Once a positive COVID-19 case occurs in our school system, whether a student or a staff member, how much control does the Board of Education have on what happens next?
So you all can choose what measures you put in place to mitigate the chances of a positive test, but you don't have any input into what happens once a positive test is realized. That's governed by quarantine procedures which are set, and there's no flexibility. And correct me if I'm wrong, but if I understand them correctly, and how I've been discussing them with other boards that I've sat with, is that if you have a positive case now in a classroom and children are masked, or some children are masked and some aren't, the children who are masked do not require quarantine unless they're symptomatic. For those individuals in the classroom who are not masked, they're required quarantine regardless of whether or not they have been symptomatic. So there's a difference in the impact on students, but the board itself doesn't have any control over what happens. That's something that's directed by the health department.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Ms. Anderson?
On that same vein, but on that quarantine thing for children who were unvaccinated, it didn't stipulate the number of days. It used to be 10, but the current guidelines do not stipulate 10. So how many days would a student have to quarantine?
So it depends on the protective factors that you can put into place, and it also depends on testing results and if the child becomes symptomatic. So typically, if somebody is a positive case, the typical quarantine period is still the 10 days, and if they are a contact of a positive, then quarantine typically is around 14 days.
And Mrs. Brown, I know that in talking with you, you told me that your advice might have been different. You and I talk frequently, usually weekly or so, and we've been talking almost every other day lately. And today, you shared with me what your advice would be. Tonight, I'm certainly not going to dispute that advice, but I will ask for affirmation of one point. One thing that you shared with me and you shared with the group tonight is that the context has changed rapidly over the last 2 weeks, I believe that you said. But you also said, and I think that's important to share with the board tonight, that if the context has changed so quickly, it could change that quickly again, and your advice might be very different in a period of a few weeks. Is that the case?
Right. I think we just have to, again, I don't know at this moment how much and how long of an impact that Delta's going to have, but I know that's what we have predominantly with us right now. And so it's just amazing to me how quickly, and you can see just in a matter of a couple of weeks how quickly Delta took over the scenario. And I would love if just as quickly it left us and we were someplace else.
So if we had a period of weeks, say 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks with cases going down, that certainly would be ample justification to amend a recommendation or certainly change what we're talking about tonight.
Yeah, I think it's just something that has to be monitored. But if things go in the right direction,
How many Delta kids do we have? Can't ask questions. How many kids do we have?
You're not permitted to ask questions.
Okay. So this is a discussion for the board members. And so, the board members have to ask the questions. And whoever their question is addressed to will certainly would answer the question. So any board members, do you have any questions or comments for Mrs. Brown or Mr. Harvey, Mrs. Herring, or Mr. Williams? This certainly is the time to ask the questions.
I do.
Okay, Mr. King. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Brown, for being here, what you do for Lamoille County and the relationship that you have with Lamoille County Public Schools. I'm going to kind of dovetail, I guess, what Superintendent Williams kind of discussed. That was kind of my question. You gave us percentages. You said earlier we were down to 1% or below 1%. Now we're 10.1%, I believe. Do you have a percentage where you might say, hey, I'm good now with choice? What would that percentage be? I don't know, I've seen so much data. I just like,
I would like to see our metrics going in the direction that they were going. If you look at Lenoir County data in June and July, we were in a really, really, really nice place. I was feeling very comfortable about a lot of the things that were happening with the reopenings and plans, for the school year. So I would like to see our number of cases dropping. I would like to see our percent positive under 5%. And I would like to just see a little bit more data on if Delta is going to be around for a little bit. I'd like to know a little bit more about who it's impacting and how it's impacting them. So those are some of the things that I will be looking for, and I usually watch our numbers every day.
If a student, you mentioned the quarantine period, 10 days, 14 days. If a student or staff were to test positive today, and 3 days from now, they have another test and it comes up negative, would we be able to allow them back into the classroom?
Once you have that positive diagnosis, and especially if you have clinical symptoms, it's really important to follow those guidelines. Now, I understand that sometimes folks may be tested a little bit too early. They may have a negative test and then a positive. So it's really important to follow those guidelines about when somebody is tested and why they are tested. And I think if those guidelines are followed, and especially if you have somebody that gets a rapid and then a PCR, and again, they've had enough days with the virus to build up that viral load, then I think if you have the why and the when, you're going to have a pretty good indication of if that person is facing COVID, and then just follow those recommendations.
Okay, thank you. I'd also like to say that our meeting has been scheduled for many months for August 9th. And we've had this meeting on social media. I don't have social media, but it's been on social media. Mr. Holmes, it was in the newspaper, for those that take the newspaper. And we had, I believe, if my count is correct, not including Ms. Brown, we had 10 people speak tonight. I thank all 10 of them for what they said, whether they were for masking or for choice. But we had 10 out of the entire county. One even from Greene County, that their children go to our school. And out of those 10, we had 9 that were for choice, and we had 1 for masking. So I just want to make sure the board realizes what those numbers were. I was taking count, some of you may have been doing that as well. But our entire community, our entire county, students, parents, grandparents, guardians, whatever, had a choice to be here tonight to make comments. If there had been 50 people on that sheet, we'd have sat there and we would have had to listen to all 50 of you. But 10 came and 9 spoke of choice. So I just want this board to realize how much and how important choice is to the folks in our county.
I have one question.
Yes, sir, Mr. Davis.
Okay, I have been across the schools. I have talked with our teachers. I have talked with our parents. I have talked with our principals. I have heard a lot of data. I've heard a lot of data that kind of condescending each other. Personally, I don't trust the data. I don't trust the people that it's coming from. What I do trust is our teachers, I trust our parents, and I trust our principals. So my question is, can you guarantee, if we go back with the mask, can you guarantee me that that mask will keep our kids safe? Can you guarantee that?
It would probably.
I mean, that's a yes or no question. Yes or no, will that mask keep all of our kids safe?
I'm happy to share some studies with you about what the masks have done for other school systems. But I think that there are other factors you have to think about.
You got to pick up, I can't hear you through all this class.
So for example, were the masks being worn properly? But if masks are worn properly, then they are protective. I cannot say that anything is going to be 100%. I think what we try to do, especially when it comes to children, I think you put several things in place, and you hope that those several things add up to as close to 100% as you can get.
Okay, you said where the masks were worn properly. How many kids are going to wear it properly? And then you got to turn around. Are our teachers going to be teachers, or are they going to be mask monitors?
I think that it is really important, again, with not knowing exactly what's going on with this variant, to try to put as many protective factors in place. Out of every population, and you can see it on this graphic, out of every population or demographic in Lenoir County, the most unprotected group are those who aren't even eligible for a vaccine right now. So really, our number one tool, the best tool that we have in our toolkit for this pandemic is not even available to them at this time. And that's why I think layering the protection, especially until we know more about this variant, I'm not sure. I can't tell you with 100% certainty that Delta will end up impacting kids more.
Thank you.
Ms. Brown.
Don't sit on that. If
Ms.
that's
Brown.
your responsibility, don't sit on that.
Okay, so, anybody have any more questions? Or any comments, any board members?
Comments. Chair,
Yeah, yes, Mr. Smith,
you all hear me?
I think so, go ahead.
All right. First thing I want to say is I've been here and listened to all the comments, from the public and one that was just made by our fellow board members. I'm at home right now because I'm in quarantine. But to say this, a few things I want to say before we actually get into whether or not we will. I listened to Ms. Brown. I listened to her data. And I listened to what she was recommending as far as layers of protection. Now, I always tell you all that I have 2 children in the school system myself. But, and I've been seeing it. We have this Delta variant, but now there's another mutation called the Lambda variant. And Ms. Brown has just said they really don't know enough about the Delta to really say exactly what it will do, except for they know that it's highly transmissible and is more transmissible than the other one was. So, my question is this. What about the children and staff that are not comfortable with being in the classroom or on a bus or the cafeteria or in other places with people who are not masked and not knowing who's vaccinated and who's not? None of it is 100%, but as much as possible, as much as you possibly can, you try to safeguard. It's just like having an alarm system on your house. Doesn't mean anybody's not going to break in it, or anybody's not going to try to break in it. But you put those layers of protection, as you mentioned earlier, to try to deter, as a deterrent. So when we look at I've listened to people talk about how they feel and about psychological effects. But what about the students and staff in the classroom who don't feel comfortable with they being in the classroom with people that are unmasked? They have a psychological effect on them as well. Some students and staff have lost loved ones to the virus. For students, this can be a serious psychological effect here in the classroom with unmasked people, because they might be concerned whether they might catch it. If you've never had lost a loved one to the virus, you're fortunate. I have, and I know many other people have. But nobody thinks about those people and the psychological effect they have on those to be around people who are not masked. Now, yes, I believe people have choices, but I do believe that it is one of the responsibilities of this board that we make sure that our children have a safe environment that's conducive for learning. It's also worth mentioning that the North Community College, I believe, has already put the mask mandate, so the students at early college high school will already be required to wear the mask. Now, in our earlier times in this virus, earlier in the year, there was a lot of talk about what the American Academy of Pediatrics had to say. Well, this last updated version of what they had to say says additionally on July 19th, 2021, the American Academy of Pediatrics released updated guidance for schools that recommends the implementation of multi-pronged layer approach to reduce viral transmission, including universal masking. Also, it says further that the American Association of Pediatrics recommend universal masking in school at this time for the following reasons. A significant portion of the student population is not eligible for vaccination. Number two, protection of unvaccinated students from COVID-19 and reduced transmission. Lack of assistance to monitor vaccine status among students, teachers, and staff, potentially difficult in monitoring and enforcing antibodies for those who are not vaccinated. In the absence of schools being able to conduct this monitoring, universal masking is the best and most effective strategy to create consistent messages, expectations, enforcement, and compliance without added burden of needing to monitor vaccination status. Now, this came from the American Association of Pediatrics, which is a whole lot of times been quoted. And then the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services said that these set strategies should be implemented, and they suggest in our toolkits that has been out to us, the ones that they should, that we do. It says they strongly advise that school leaders adopt all strategies that are in the should section, which universal masking is in the should section. Now, you know, any decision that's made tonight is not etched in stone. It has to be reviewed, and I believe it says, according to one of the general statutes, it has to be reviewed monthly. If a school system decided for universal masking, that it would have to be reviewed monthly. So any decision that's made tonight is not etched in stone. I believe I could hear Ms. Brown sometimes, and some I couldn't partially, but I believe she said something about the matrix declining would be a reason to revisit that. So, you know, we just need to keep in mind all of these things, and, you know, like I said, the American Academy of Pediatrics was always quoted earlier on the virus, but now, you know, I want to read to you what it actually said in their last update. So, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Mr. Chair, point of clarification. The bill that Mr. Smith was just referencing about the requirement that any decision that's made be reviewed by the board every month has not yet been ratified or passed, but it certainly is something the board could consider on their own.
Ms. Merchant, you said it hadn't been ratified yet?
Thank you.
That's correct.
Okay, I know I remember reading this helped out. Thank you.
Okay. So I'd like to ask the question to Ms. Brown. So Ms. Brown, are you saying that what we need to do as a school system is to try to implement as many mitigating measures to help spread this new variant?
Pain to spread.
Stop the spread.
Is that what you're saying?
Stop the spread.
So I think it's good to have a layered approach, to have multiple strategies in place.
Right, multiple layers.
To prevent the spread of Delta within a school system.
All right.
Mr.
Same
Chairman.
protection for every child as you have.
Mr. Chairman.
Ma'am, excuse me. Okay, now, I really don't want to be rude, but, and I think our attorney here will support what I'm going to say. This is a Board of Education meeting. It is open to the public. It is designed for the members of the board to have a conversation about whatever topic it is. I don't think, other than public comment, that we are supposed to receive comments from the audience. Okay, so I mean, and I know everyone here is concerned about what's going on in the county. We all are, and we all have our own different opinions about how to try to do this. I mean, that's kind of what makes the world go around. If we're all the same, it'd be kind of boring. So I understand everybody has a passion here, especially when it comes to our children. I had a good old friend one time to tell me, anytime you start messing with people's children and their money, you're not going to get it right. So we're trying to do the right thing here, okay? And hopefully we'll have some good, constructive conversation here, and we can get some good data and a good recommendation on how to move forward in this new school year. Nobody wants to go back to what it was last year. Nobody wants that. Trust me, I don't know how many of you know, I live with a school teacher. But nobody wants to go back to that, okay? It really wasn't good for anybody. But under the circumstances, we had to do the very best we could. And that's what we're trying to do here tonight. We're trying to decide what's the best thing to do for everybody, for our students, our staff, our community. All about y'all, but when I talk about our community, I'm not talking about Pink Hill, Moss Hill, LaGrange, I'm talking about the outline that is Lenore County. That is our community. We're all here together. We've all got to learn to live together and get along. Well, obviously, we don't all agree. I understand that. So what we're trying to do here tonight is to have a good, civilized conversation on how the best way to move forward. So, you know, we would appreciate it if you would hold your comments, because, you know, I even have checked with Mrs. Merson. The board is not even, doesn't have to respond to a comment, correct?
Thank you, I appreciate that.
That's correct.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Anderson.
Mr. Chairman, I move that mask wearing be required in all Lenore County public schools, indoor facilities, and buses during the first 9 weeks of the 2021-22 school year. Documented medical exemptions to be accepted. That the current screening protocols be remain in effect. Athletic activities to follow the guidelines of the Regulatory Association. That the monthly reevaluation of conditions and circumstances determine whether to extend or modify this requirement be done on a monthly basis.
Okay, now, hold on just a second. Let me ask, has the administration finished making their recommendations? Your motion was only about a mask, right? So on the agenda, what
We
we're
finished our
supposed to-
presentation except for the masking, yes.
I'm sorry?
Yes, we finished the presentation plan except for the masking. We were on the masking section.
Because, so what on the action item on the agenda is for, is to,
Approve the plan.
approve a plan, a COVID-19 response for our school system for the beginning of the year. So now, do we
If I'm
need?
not mistaken, I was told a motion can be made at any time.
There, Mr. Chair, there is a motion on the floor, so I think we would
Okay.
open that up if
We
there's
got a motion
second.
on the floor by Mr. Anderson. Mr. Anderson, would you like to restate your motion?
Chairman,
Yes, is that Mr. Smith?
yes, when it replays, speak up just a little bit so I can hear it all, please.
Okay.
I move that mask wearing be required in all Lenore County public schools, indoor facilities, and buses during the first 9 weeks of the 2021-22 school year. Documented medical exemptions to be accepted. That the current screening protocols remain in effect. Athletic activities to follow the guidelines of the Regulatory Association. That monthly reevaluations of conditions and circumstances determine whether to extend or modify this requirement for the second 9 weeks.
Okay, we got a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Anderson, a second by Mr. Mr. Smith.
Yes, not my being.
It was Mr. Smith, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, Mr. Davis. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, is there any further discussion?
If I hear you right, we could come back within a month and take a look at it
We will review it on the 6th.
on the 6th.
But now, are you saying for the first 9 weeks, or are we going to review it every month?
For the first 9 weeks, which is really for the initial of school, because we meet again September 6th.
Okay.
The 13th.
We meet on the 6th, don't we?
Mr. Anderson, there is a,
We meet on the 13th.
There isn't it, yeah, because it's Labor Day.
Okay. Whatever our next September meeting is, we will review it and modify if necessary.
Okay, so you're saying we would look at it at the next board meeting, September 13th?
Yes.
Okay. You're not saying it is for 9 weeks?
No, not necessarily.
Okay, okay.
That's what I heard.
You said
That wasn't the
nine
intention,
That's what I heard,
but it said it would be looked at monthly.
but it's for 9 weeks. That's what I heard. It can be reviewed every month is great, but I heard 9 weeks.
I'll stand by that.
So what you wrote down, 9 weeks?
For the first 9 weeks, yes.
I heard two things that were conflicting. I heard first 9 weeks it would be in place and that it would be reviewed monthly and could be changed based on the metrics at that time. Would anyone like to make a motion to amend? And that can be made by any board member.
Okay. Let's, this discussion.
I don't see the conflict.
The conflict is in one part of your motion, it indicates that the mask requirement would be in place for 9 weeks. And in another portion of your motion, it indicates that it will be reviewed and possibly changed in less than 9 weeks. So there's internal conflict in the motion. It would be helpful if we could amend, if someone could put an amendment on the floor to rectify that conflict so that administration has clear guidance on your intentions.
Is 6 weeks gonna be our September 13th meeting? Would that be about 6 weeks?
For the next board meeting?
Yeah.
It's
Well,
it's
it'll be,
4 weeks. It's 4 weeks.
3 weeks of school. We'll be in school 3 weeks on the next board meeting. Right? Is that correct, Mr. Williams?
Okay, I'll change my motion to the initial 3 weeks of school.
So can we have a motion to amend? Is that a motion?
Yeah, I'll amend my
Motion to
motion.
amend.
Yeah, he can amend his motion, right?
We need a second on the amendment, and then we need to vote on the amendment.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay. So we got us a motion to amend the motion and a second.
And then
Correct.
we need a vote on approval of the amendment. It's not up or down on the motion itself, it's just
Okay.
on the new language.
I'll approve it on the amendment. And
Right.
the amendment is for the first 3 weeks, Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Okay, the amendment is for the first 3 weeks. So we're going to call for a vote to amend the motion, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so does everybody understand what we're voting on?
Yes, amen.
We're voting on to amend the original motion from 9 weeks to 3 weeks. Okay, so,
That's next board meeting, you said?
Mr.
Yes.
Smith, he said he revised his motion to say for the first 3 weeks, which in essence is the first 3 weeks of school. Correct, Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Our next board meeting is September the 13th, I
13th,
believe, so that'll be
yes.
3 weeks of school.
Okay.
You understand? Did you hear that, Mr. Smith?
Right, so you're doing it for the first 3 weeks to review at the next board meeting?
Correct. But we gotta vote on the amendment. So does everybody understand the amendment? Okay, all in favor of the amendment as stated, signify by raising your right hand. Hold your hands out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, Mr. Smith?
Yes.
So that's 5. All opposed, like sign. Okay, so the motion to amend the motion carries 5-2.
And now we need to vote on that motion, the new amended motion.
You have to have a motion to vote on the motion?
No. We now need to vote on the substance of the motion
Okay.
itself.
So can you restate the motion for us, Mrs. Merchant, to make sure everyone understands what we're voting on?
Okay, well, it won't be the exact language, but it's a motion to mandate masks be required everywhere by everyone in the school system, including transportation and elsewhere. Medical exemptions will be accepted, and it will be in place for 3 weeks to be reevaluated at the next board meeting.
Okay?
Did I miss anything?
Close enough.
Does that include with the athletics and everything?
That's close enough.
Okay. So everyone understand the motion? Mr. Smith, were you able to hear that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we're in essence, the motion is to require masks inside all school buildings, on all school property, inside school buildings for the first 2 weeks, and then to review that at the next board meeting. Is that correct, Mrs. Mercer?
Yes, including medical exemptions
Yeah.
and, yeah.
Okay. All right, everybody understand the motion? Are there any more questions? Okay, if not, then we will call for the vote. All in favor of the motion?
Question.
Yes, Mr. Smith?
Or the vote. Ms. Burton, does that include everybody on school campuses, or was that just for students?
That's for everybody.
That's everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's everybody.
Okay.
Staff, students, teachers, everybody. Okay, now, are we ready to vote on the motion? Okay, all in favor of the motion as stated? Mrs. Murchison, all in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Mr. Smith?
Yes.
All opposed to the motion, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Motion carries. Now, Mr. Williams, do you have any more comments? Okay. So, I thank Mr. Williams, Mrs. Harrod, Mrs. Harvey, Mrs. Brown, and Mrs. Murchison for your presentations, your data, and your advice. Okay. Now we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the budget resolution. Chair recognizes Mr. Eric Adams to present the budget resolution.
Good evening, board members. Before you this evening, requesting approval for our 2021-2022 budget resolution. For the past 40 days, we've operated under an interim budget, but at this time, we have our state public school fund initial allotments as well as local current expense, actual appropriation, and estimated fines and forfeitures. Our federal grants funds we based upon our planning allotments and actual carryover amounts. Capital outlay reflects current lottery funds and half-cent sales tax revenue. School food service is prepared with anticipated revenues. Trust fund budget is prepared using actual amounts as of July 1, 2021. And our other local current expense is prepared using anticipated state, federal, and local grant revenues and actual carryover amounts. As you have an opportunity to review the resolution and the attached detailed budget, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, any comments for Mr. Adams? Okay, thank you, Mr. Adams. Is there a recommendation or a motion pertaining to the budget resolution? Folks, we need a budget.
Move to adopt.
We have a motion by Mr. Anderson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Smith. We have a motion by Mr. Anderson and a second by Mr. Smith to approve the budget resolution. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Okay, next item on the agenda is the child nutrition vendor. Chair recognizes Mr. Nick Harvey and Mrs. Danielle Smith to present the child nutrition vendors for the 2021-2022 school year.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, board members. Ms. Smith is back. As you recall, last month she presented the vendor proposal list for you for your review, and we are back now asking for that approval. Ms. Smith is here to entertain any questions you may have.
All right, any questions for Mr. Harvey or for Ms. Smith?
And we did add chemicals as well, because we did add chemicals as well onto that,
Yes.
because we would be over the $5,000 threshold, so that is why we added the chemicals on there.
Okay, everybody was aware of that addition?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, thank you, Ms. Harvey, Ms. Smith. All right, so is there a recommendation or motion pertaining to child nutrition vendor for the 2021-2022 school year? Okay, folks, we got to feed them.
So moved. So moved to approve.
We got a motion by Mr. Woods. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Anderson. We have a motion by Mr. Woods and a second by Mr. Anderson to approve the child nutrition vendor for the 2021-2022 school year. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, the last item on the action agenda. Chair recognizes Mr. Nick Harvey to present surplus items.
Thank you, sir. The attached technology items are submitted for your approval to be deemed surplus. Any proceeds derived from the sale shall be returned to the technology department. Tonight you have from Northern High School, So we have technology and we have North North. So also from North North, we have surplus items for your review. The ag mechanic shop is updating their equipment piece by piece, and most of these items are broken or lack of safety guards, and they need to be removed from the shop.
Okay, anybody have any questions for Mr. Harvey? Okay, do we have a motion or recommendation pertaining to surplus items?
So moved to approve as presented.
I'm sorry, Mr. Woods. Motion by Mr. Woods, is second.
Second.
Second by Dr. Outlaw. We have a motion by Mr. Woods and a second by Dr. Outlaw to approve the surplus items as presented. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Motion carries. Now, is there a recommendation or motion pertaining to closed session?
Mr. Chairman, I move that Lenore County Board of Education go into closed session under North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11 to prevent the disclosure of confidential personnel files, to consult with the board's attorney in order to preserve the current attorney-client privilege, and to consider matters relating to the initial employment of an individual employee.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. We have a motion by Mr. Anderson. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Davis. Have a motion by Mr. Anderson and a second by Mr. Davis to move to closed session. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Motion carries. We are now in closed session. Thank you. Mr. White's got a thumbs up. Okay, Chair recognizes that the Lenore County Board of Education is back in open session. Is there a recommendation or a motion pertaining to the personnel report?
Move to accept the personnel report in the addendum.
We got a motion by Mr. Davis. Is there a second? Gotta have a second to vote, folks. Is there a second?
Second.
Got a second by Mr. King. So we have a motion by Mr. Davis, a second by Mr. King to approve the personnel report with the addendum as presented. Is there any further discussion? Okay. Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Mr. Smith?
Oh.
Did he?
He said something.
He said no. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Okay, the motion carries. Mr. Newell, did you have anything to say? Okay. All right. So with no further business to come before this board, is there a recommendation or motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Motion has been made to adjourn the meeting, second. By Mr. Woods. A motion by Mr. Anderson, a second by Mr. Woods to adjourn the meeting. Any discussion? Call for the vote. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned. Please stay safe. Oh, sorry, Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Yes. Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned. Everyone, please stay safe.